Thanks, Paul. We're going to take you live now, right away, to a media conference that has just begun. Wellington District Commander Inspector Paul Basham of Wellington Police talking about their use of a drink-driving checkpoint to ascertain information about people who had attended a voluntary euthanasia meeting in Lower Hutt. This is it.
Focus of the police investigation. And I would like to note that this crime is a punishable by a maximum term of 14 years imprisonment. I want to stress that the investigation is still very much in its early stages, but I am able to say at this point that our inquiries have identified other deaths that also require further investigation with respect to the serious offence of aiding and abetting suicide. As a consequence of our inquiries, police became aware of a meeting in Lower Hutt on the 2nd of October 2016. In the interests of the preservation of life, we made a decision to set up a checkpoint to obtain the details of the people who were attending this meeting, as we were concerned for their well-being. 7 cars with people from the meeting were stopped and details from 10 people were obtained. They were not questioned about the meeting. Over the following week, 9 of these people were visited and welfare and support information was provided. 1 person declined contact with police. The information obtained during this checkpoint enabled police to take advice and then provide support and information to those people who we had reason to believe may be contemplating suicide. Preservation of life was central to our intentions and our engagement. There is no doubt that this is a challenging area from a policing perspective. However, we must fulfil our duty to preserve life and our obligation to investigate serious offences such as aiding and abetting suicide, regardless of the strength of the feeling of the issue. I am very aware of the concerns around the actions taken regarding the checkpoint, and I would like to assure the public that we are taking all necessary steps on this aspect. As you will be aware, police have notified the matter to the Independent Police Conduct Authority, given the concerns which have been raised about the operation. I am confident that staff have acted in the best interests of the community and they carried out the road stop in good faith and for good reasons. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
You say you acknowledge that there are concerns about the checkpoint. What are your concerns?
I'm very aware of the high degree of public interest in our actions, and I know that as an agency, police have referred this to the Independent Conduct Authority. It's not my intention to litigate the concerns of those issues through the media this afternoon, but what I can say is I'm confident, based on what I know now, that our staff, based on what they knew then, acted reasonably in good faith, and they did so around the central issue of the duty of care we have with regard to preserving life.
Was the checkpoint legal?
Again, I'm very aware of the concerns that are out there in the community and by interested parties. It's not my intention to litigate or discuss the merits of that particular issue through the media this afternoon. There will be other opportunities for us to do that, and we will do so in the appropriate time, in the appropriate way.
At this point, who gave authorisation for this checkpoint to take place?
Police work operational police work often requires our officers to make time-critical decisions. And the decision to conduct the checkpoint is within that context of that sort of challenge for our officers, that they had to make a decision at the time, and they made that decision around this preservation of life.
But you say it has been referred to the IPCA. Is that not therefore indicating that you are acknowledging something was done and it was done wrong?
I think the police are acknowledging that there is a legitimate concern around the question you're asking me, and that we have taken, I think, what is an unusual step or a rare step to self-report to the IPCA And quite rightly, the Independent Police Conduct Authority will look into those questions, and we look forward to the opportunity to cooperate with the authority or anybody else that wants to address the issue. The issue of legality that we understand has been legitimately raised and that needs to be addressed, but it's not the time for us to address that today at a media conference.
Have these people been under any police surveillance during this investigation?
No.
No electronic surveillance?
There is some aspects of the investigation in terms of the integrity of the investigation, the fact that there are some issues of sub judice and potential, depending on the long-term outcome of the investigation, that could be some sub judice and just some stuff that I can't talk about.
How many suspected assisted suicides are you looking at as part of the investigation?
Again, as much as I would like to be able to provide more information to address your question, I am constrained by issues of the integrity of the investigation and more broad issues around sub judice or potential sub judice, and I cannot go into those sorts of details.
So we know that police are given the power to stop vehicles for the purpose of road safety. Did you use those powers to gather this information?
Again, it's not my intention to discuss or litigate.
That's a very simple yes, no. Did you use those powers of maintaining road safety to get this information?
Yes, again, I think I've answered that. It's not my intention to litigate the issue that you raised today through the media. The police will do so at the appropriate time in the appropriate manner, and we look forward to that opportunity.
Okay, so that appropriate manner is through the IPCA. Will you take on its recommendations as binding?
Oh, we will certainly take on board its recommendations.
Will you
as an
accept
agency.
them and adopt them?
Well, I guess that's a hypothetical. The police has a statutory relationship with the IPCA and vice versa. You're asking me to comment on something that is in the future and speculate on an outcome that no one can predict at this point. But as a general rule, as an agency, we always take the recommendations of the IPCA very seriously, and I see no reason that we would do anything other than that with regards to this issue.
The group in question has said that its members have felt harassed and have become nervous as a result of police checking in on them after having their details taken through this cheap way.
Sure.
Many of these are elderly women.
Mm-hmm.
What's your response to that?
I think there's probably a couple of things I can clarify in response to your question. So firstly, I know there's been a lot of speculation that somehow the New Zealand Police have a particular interest in a group exit or otherwise. And I want to say quite clearly today that that is not the case. We do not have an interest in any particular group, nor do we take a position around euthanasia. We're acutely aware of the sensitivity of this issue and the broader public debate. And we as an agency quite rightly have no interest in that. We are purely objective and focused around the criminal investigation into aiding and abetting suicide. In regards to the other part of your question around the people that we visited, we were acting in the interests of preserving life and providing support to people who we believe were contemplating suicide. As an agency, as individual officers, we took an oath to preserve life, and it's something that is central to us as an agency and to our culture. And when we become aware of information that people are contemplating suicide, we can't look the other way. We have to act. And so we took some advice and we took some actions based on that advice, and we tried to design an intervention that would be both compassionate and appropriate and respectful, and provide these people with some advice around the issue.
Why did the officers who visited these people not leave a business card to say who they were if the person wants to follow up?
Look, I can't comment on that. I don't know. I don't know. No particular reason. I wouldn't have thought there's any particular reason why they would or they wouldn't.
Can you say what the Class C control truck was?
No, I can't. That's a matter that's I can't comment on, given the fact that there is a matter before the court.
A recreational drug?
Again, I just can't comment on that. I'm sorry about that.
Why won't you say who gave the green light on this?
Because I think the way that you frame the question doesn't adequately address the decision. The decision was an operational decision that was taken at the time, by an officer who was in the field with some advice from their superiors based on what was happening in front of them.
So it was an officer in the field who made the final decision on this?
It was a collective decision, but ultimately it was a decision as a result of things that were unfolding in front of the investigation team at the time. So it wasn't preordained, it wasn't precast, it wasn't pre-planned. Police have to think on their feet, on the fly, and make an appreciation around fast-moving factors and considerations. And this is an example of that. And I want to stress, and I think this is really important, that the central issue around the decision to set up the checkpoint was around preserving life.
You said that it was in consultation with superiors.
That is Wellington District Commander Inspector Paul Basham speaking at a media conference. He kept using that phrase, preserving life. In short, he appears to be saying the end justifies the means. If you've just tuned in, he's talking about what sounds like a unilateral and impromptu false breathalyzer checkpoint set up outside the Exit International Voluntary Euthanasia meeting in Lower Hutt by officers working at the time on the night, in which information about people who had attended that meeting was obtained. Paul Basham said, acting in the interests of preserving life. When we get information that people are contemplating suicide, we can't look the other way.